Hi, my name's Blevin from Walker Scott, and in this series we've covered a wide range of look and feel and navigation within D365 Finance and Operations. In this session, I'll be covering exporting to Excel and open in Excel. It should be noted that I'm using a standard D365 environment with Microsoft's Contoso demo data. So let's jump right in. So the first topic we're going to cover is how to export to Excel. And we're going to do this by navigating to the All Customers page. So under Accounts Receivable, Customers, All Customers, we have a view that has been created for a select group of customers. So you can see I have 33 rows on the page. I can filter this further and I can apply a filter that says I don't want to show any of these customers that have a credit limit of 0, and I can click apply. Now that drops the record count down to 29 rows. Now that I'm happy and I want to export this to Excel, I have two options. The first option is I can come up to the top right and click on the Open in Microsoft Office button. And what you'll see is that there are some menu items for Open in Excel. We'll cover those a little bit later. We are simply going to use the Export to Excel. And when I select that, you get an option to download the file, and it downloads to an Excel file that you can then open. And what we'll see is that it is a static export, which effectively means it's a snapshot at a point in time. If the information is to change in Dynamics, this spreadsheet will not reflect that, as it's an export at that point in time. So what you can see is I have the same record count as what was in the export at the same time. The next option, or the alternative option, is where you can actually select records in Dynamics, and you can right click and you can choose to export all rows, which is the same as what we did with the Open in Excel export to Excel. And the alternative is you can export just your marked rows. So in this case, I have 4 records that I've selected. If I click export to marked rows, I can then download that static view of what has been selected. And if I drag my spreadsheet across, you can see those 4 records have been exported. Now this does bring just the fields that are displayed on the page, and you can add additional fields, you can hide fields, you can apply different filters. It will export what is on the screen. So what we've covered is how to export records in Dynamics. The next option that we're going to cover is how to use the Open in Excel functionality. Now, the Open in Excel functionality is incredibly powerful because it is not a static view. It's a live feed into Dynamics. And I'm actually going to navigate to all customers with the standard view. And we'll see that this is a list of all customers here. And you can see down the bottom, I have a customer called Hungry Panda. I can now click on the Open in Microsoft Office, and what you'll see is there are actually a few different menu items here. Some of these are the standard out-of-the-box Microsoft Open in Excel templates. I do actually have a custom one that we'll be covering a little bit later on, but I'm going to just click on the Customers USMF. And similar to the export to Excel, I still have to download the workbook. The difference here is if this is your first time using Open in Excel, you may actually have to sign in to the workbook when it is downloaded and log in using your credentials. So I'm just going to drag the spreadsheet across, and this time I'm going to enable editing. And as I mentioned, you will have to log in using your credentials if this is the first time. But on the right-hand side, we can see I have a Microsoft Dynamics and Data Connector. Now, what you'll see is I have now a live feed of various fields because I'm using the standard out of the box. There's a lot of fields here. This is a live feed, so I can actually update Hungry Panda to be Hungry Bear, and let's update that as well, Hungry Bear. And when I'm happy with my changes, I can hit the publish button. And what you'll see, it's now publishing, it's processing that change, and it said that the publish is successful. Now there are some other options here, but the main options that you'll likely be using are the refresh and publish. I can now jump back into Dynamics, and if I come back into Dynamics, if I refresh the page, you can see Hungry Panda down here. If I click refresh, you will see that it will change and update, and it now says Hungry Bear. So Open in Excel is incredibly powerful, and you do need to be quite careful with it, but it is a live feed into Dynamics. I'm now going to open up a much more simpler workbook, which is one that I've created and we will be covering in a separate session, where I am going to change my view now to Blevins Simple View. And on this page, I can see that I have credit limit and credit rating, but maybe I don't want all of those fields that were available in the standard template. So I'm going to now use a Open in Excel with my custom credit limit and rating. So when I click download this time, it's going to give me my Excel workbook. And I'll just quickly drag that onto the screen. I'll click enable editing. And what you can see is it's a much simpler template. So I have my customer account, I have my name, I have my credit limit and my credit rating field. Now the name hasn't pulled through, so I haven't used the correct name field with this template. But what you can see is I've got my credit limit and credit rating. Now, what I can do here is I can mass update. So for example, maybe for those credit limits with a 0 or less than 20,000, I can simply type in terrible and update those across all. I could go and update the credit limits as well. So perhaps these now have a $10 credit limit. And when I'm ready, I can click publish. So I just need to update my filters or remove my filters. So let me clear the filter and click publish. Now that has successfully published. If I jump back into Dynamics again, so I move my spreadsheets off the page and I come up to the top, I can hit refresh. What you'll see is the credit limit has not only been updated, but those have been updated to a credit rating of terrible. So you can see that that's updated for all those records, and that is a very quick way of being able to mass update records using the Open in Excel functionality. Now our last example that we're going to cover is Open in Excel for journals. So in this example, I'm going to actually navigate to the General Ledger module and go to General Journals. And the recommendation whenever you're creating a Open in Excel and using the Open in Excel for journals is that you make sure you've created a header first. Now, I would also go as far as creating at least a couple of lines. So if I look at this particular journal that I have as a draft, you can see I've got some values populated. I've got some main accounts. I've got financial dimensions, which I'll touch on very shortly. I've got some descriptions, and I've got a debit and credit for at least a couple of lines. Now, you can actually access the Open lines in Excel from the header. So from here, I can choose which of the Open in Excel templates, whether I'm going to use an invoice journal line, a general journal line, or project expense journal. These are the ones that are currently available out of the box. And you can select which one before opening. Now, you can also do that from the lines. So if I click on open in Microsoft Office, you get those same options as well as an export. So I'm going to click on the general journal line entry and click download. And when this opens, we'll see that it will pop up with the enable for editing again. I'll just drag that across. I'll click enable editing. And that is going to pull through the journal information into Open in Excel. So you can see I've got my 2 lines here. Now, you can click into the various fields and there is specific data validation available. So what you can see is that I could change this to different account types. If I click on the date, I get a nice calendar where I can choose the date in terms of I can select these from a validation perspective. I could alternatively just type them in. I could copy and paste values in as well, provided that they're added to the table. Now, one limitation with the out-of-the-box Open in Excel for the journal entries is that at the moment, this particular template does not have financial dimensions. So they would need to be added to the template if you wanted to also incorporate financial dimension values. As I mentioned, there is data validation, so even on currency, you can choose the different currencies that are out of the box. In this example, I'm just going to keep it very simple, and I'm going to change the $3,000 and change it to $12,000. And when I'm happy with my journal, I can then publish it back into Dynamics, process those changes, it's updated the workbook, and you can see the data has been refreshed. So if I come back into the journal now and refresh it, you'll see that that 12,000 has been updated. So in this session, we've covered quite a few topics. We have covered the how to export to Excel and the 2 methods there. We've also shown how to open in Excel, not just for master data, but also for simple templates as well. And we've also covered Open in Excel for journals. Thank you.